Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's Caregiver Connections here on the last day of the month of July already. It's really hard to believe. I am so excited to introduce Darren today. Darren is actually one of our new team members. He is the program administrator for Caregivers Alberta, and he's going to share a little bit of who he is. And maybe we'll ask him if he's a caregiver or not. So, Darren, welcome and welcome to Caregivers Alberta. It's so lovely to have a male be working with us on a daily basis. How are you?
I'm doing really well. This is my first week at work with the team, and it's been a lot of learning, but it's been so welcoming, and I'm so happy to be a part of the team.
Awesome. So, how did you hear about Caregivers Alberta? When did that come about? And what is some of the things that you find that is really impactful and really intriguing about both Caregivers Alberta and what you're going to do specifically?
To be perfectly honest, I don't believe that I heard about the organization before I saw the job posting. But like the previous job I had, as soon as I heard about it, I wanted to learn more and more and got really excited about the idea of it. I am a caregiver myself, and to yeah, it's apparent to me that there's not a lot of resources out there for caregivers. And my previous role, I was supporting parents in their role and helping their children. So this is something that fits really closely to things that I've already done, and it's just I think it's such an important thing to be a part of and to help it in any way that I can. I'm just excited to be a part of it.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on board. So you did mention that you're a caregiver, and
Mhm.
we know a little bit about your story because we met yesterday at our team meeting. But I would love for you to share with our caregivers your caregiving journey with your wonderful wife.
Mhm. Okay, so I met my wife when we were both in university, and she did disclose to me fairly early on that she had issues with anxiety, but she was still very functional. She finished university same time that I did. She got into a job right away. We were both in education, so we were both getting into teaching. But a couple of years later, I think it was about 3 years later, a bunch of other health issues started to crop up, and it became very hard for her to maintain work. And her diagnosis really went from being a mild case to being a severe case. So I found myself in a caregiver role, really in a fairly unexpected way. I have a background in psychology, so I was very prepared to be, supportive and help, but I didn't anticipate being really a primary caregiver as much, that level beyond just a friend or supporter. So it's been a very interesting journey, and really reevaluating both my identity and our relationship, because it's not necessarily the relationship I thought I was getting into, I suppose. But it is a loving relationship. I do want to do everything I can for her, and through all of the challenges, all of the successes, it's just really a blessing to be a part of that with her and to help her, and how she helps me in return.
Absolutely. And I completely agree with everything you're saying. As many of the caregivers who are probably watching and some of the professionals know, that they know my story of being a caregiver for my husband who has PTSD. So I understand that mental health capacity 100%. So the other thing I wanted to kind of mention is, you had said that you never heard about Caregivers Alberta before this opportunity came up.
Mhm.
And you've been in a caregiving role for a significant amount of time at this point. Would that be fair to say?
That's true. In retrospect, I do believe I'd come across the Compass training before, but I had associated with the Compass Center for Sexual Health. So I did not know that it had any connection to caregiving.
No, and I think that's pretty relevant to say. And it's always interesting because I love having these conversations, especially when you have a new caregiver come around and now on board with us, which is really even better. And saying, look, yeah, I didn't know about Caregivers Alberta, and I heard about Compass, but I had no idea what that entailed. And obviously, you thought it was a completely different organization. So I think that is really important to recognize. But if you would have known about Caregivers Alberta previous, and knowing that there was a support system out there with resources and lots of support, as you know, with the one-on-ones, the peer, the education, the Compass program, could it have helped support you during your journey, do you think? And how do you think things could be different, especially now that you have us? Like, you have us in your hands, right?
Yeah, I think it would have made a world of difference. I mean, I'm still learning about the whole spectrum of support that the organization offers, but in terms of, helping me with self-care, helping me with advocacy for my wife, helping with financial advice. There's a lot of different struggles that we've had over the years that I now know where I would go for help. I don't know how early I would have been reaching out for help, because like a lot of people, I do think I hesitate to reach out for help when I really should be doing that. Last year I did find a different support group, so that was helpful, but they didn't offer nearly the same range of services. So I'm really excited to be a part of an organization that really has that holistic approach to helping caregivers, and really caregiver centered as well.
And I love that you added the holistic piece, because it's really important that we start at wherever our caregiver is. So whether that is just the initial, let's build some trust, is really important. And we're having a really safe, candid conversation right now, kind of getting to know you and recognizing that. And I did ask previous, just so everybody who's watching knows, I asked if he would be comfortable sharing his caregiving journey, because we do want to respect even our team's journeys, because they're not always easy, but we do appreciate it, because it's by bringing awareness like this, it can really help the caregivers who aren't identifying at this moment. I would love to know, now that you're a part of our team and you've gotten a little trickle of what we do, how are you looking forward of being a part of an organization that truly helps people like yourself, especially when you were stressing and you understand what that's like, and now knowing that there's a place that you could go and get that much needed reprieve, whether that is the mental capacity, the financial capacity, or at least some information coming out there. I just want to know your thoughts on how you see this evolving for yourself now.
Well, I feel incredibly fortunate for for starters. I'm excited that, I mean, I know I have a lot to learn about being a caregiver, and what's available to me, and just in terms of self-help as well. So I'm sure I'm going to continually be learning from everything that the Caregivers Alberta has to offer, but as well as from the participants, from our clients, because that's the nature of the kind of work that we do, that we're always learning together. So that's really exciting, and really helping to get the word out. Like I know there's a number of other caregivers in my family that I'm happy to connect them with these resources, and learning about the resources that are available in other provinces, and connecting family that are further away with those. So that's really exciting. I had asked our program director about the kind of the demographics of the people that we're serving, and she was honest, and she told me that it's mostly women, whereas we know from our studies that 47% of caregivers in our province are men.
That's
so
right.
I'm hoping that I can be part of really bringing more men in to find the support that they need, because it's a big challenge, and there's obviously a lot of men that could use that support.
Absolutely. And part of it is just that identifying piece, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That they don't identify as being a caregiver. They identify as being a spouse, a father, a friend who's giving support. And what's really neat is we did an interview with my husband and talking about his caregiving role with me with my fibromyalgia and my back injury and my traumatic brain injury. And he does not identify as a caregiver. And I work at Caregivers Alberta. So
Mm-hmm.
he's part of that percentage of the 47%, but again, he doesn't identify as that. And I'm really looking forward to having that run on our website and on our Facebook page, because I think it's really important that there are ways that you can still, whether you identify as that caregiving piece, still reach out to us for that support, even though you don't think of us or think of yourself as that caregiver. But it's a thought process. You know, if you support a loved one or a family member with an illness, disability, or aging, there is support there for you.
Oh yeah, it makes a huge difference. I think before I started to identify as a caregiver, I thought about it in much more abstract terms, just like this is what a decent person would do. but I didn't I because I didn't identify specifically as a caregiver, I wasn't looking for resources to help me. I just thought that, you know, this is what you do if you care about someone, that you
Right.
help them in any way that you can. And now it just all the doors that open once you actually identify and can specifically ask for help with that. It's a game changer.
Right. And I guess one of the key things that we're trying to do at Caregivers Alberta is really say, hey, you know what? We want you to reach out to us at the beginning or early part of your caregiving journey so that you don't end up in caregiver fatigue,
Oh
and
yeah.
that you have the opportunity to reduce those stress levels and really build a significant plan so that you're better at to be successful through that journey, right? Because we don't want people to be ill and cause their own sickness because of the amount of stress and the hypervigilance that they're under.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we have had a lot of struggles. There's, you know, my self-care has definitely been one of my lowest priorities in the past, and that's led to not only problems for myself, but it really interferes with how well I can take care of my wife. And yeah, she needs that support as much as I need my own health. So it's
Absolutely.
yeah, so valuable.
So I heard you say you really are hoping to be that person to say, "Hey guys, I'm here. Hi, come because I want to help support you too," which I think is absolutely fantastic. But I guess the last question for me to you today is, you're going to be doing some of the intake calls while I'm on holidays for the next 2
Yes.
weeks.
Yes.
And what do you want to say to the caregivers that might be calling in while you do this? Because I love the fact that, number one, we're having a male on the line. And number two, we actually talked about kind of some of what I really see that is beneficial for when we help the caregivers. And we had a wonderful meeting about this yesterday. And I want to know what you want the caregivers to know while you help take some of these intake calls over the next 2 weeks.
Oh my goodness. I mean, of course, we want them to know everything that they're wanting to know, but I think for start, that they're really all, I mean, people are coming to us wanting to learn new things. And something that I learned in my previous position is that all learning happens in relationships. And everyone I've met at this organization has just been so warm and welcoming and really wanting to do what they can to help caregivers all across the province. And I'm happy to count myself among them. That is absolutely what I want to do. I obviously don't know everything yet. But this is something that we can learn together, and we're going to be there for you no matter what. If we will make sure that you don't get missed, that you will ultimately be connected with everything you need to be connected with.
Right. And I think that's awesome. And I think that's super powerful. if you guys have any questions that you want to ask him, we have a couple of minutes left here before we're going to say goodbye to Darren, but please put in the chat because we can actually have him answer the questions right now. Like, what's your favorite color?
My favorite color?
Yeah.
Oh, I change my mind all the time. Sometimes green, sometimes blue, sometimes red. Usually one of those three.
So you like the primary colors is what you're saying.
I suppose so. Occasionally orange gets in there.
Again, that's part of the primary colors. That's awesome. So what is something, well, I don't see you in the next 2 weeks, what is something that you're going to do for yourself to bring yourself joy? This is something I always ask our caregivers at the end of our peer support group, which is our caregiver support community, or when I have a one-on-one session with them. So I want to ask you before we leave, what are you going to do to bring yourself some joy in the next 2 weeks while I'm away?
Well, I think something that I'm trying to be very mindful of is, even though this is a new position for me and there's so much to learn, that I do need to take breaks. And the weather's been lovely, so I'm going to try to get outside to go for a walk at least once a day, hopefully during the day. So at the end of the day, I'm not just feeling absolutely done.
Right.
And yeah, that's a big one.
Okay.
That being outside and getting a chance to stretch my legs makes a big difference.
And so just to be clear, what I'm hearing is that taking the breaks piece away from work is building a boundary to make sure that you're doing what you need to for your balance of self-care and work. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, just a little bit of time for myself can make a huge difference. Well, actually, I was just looking on my desk and I have this. They're often advertised as like timeout bottles. It's like some glitter, and I've got some vegetable oil and water in there, about half and half. And just the time it takes for the glitter to settle, it's about a minute and a half. And just taking that time to just kind of just watch it be all sparkly.
Right.
And by the time it settles, I'm in a little bit clearer frame of mind and breathing a little bit easier. And it's, it doesn't always have to be a huge chunk of time, even just a minute to focus on yourself, to help yourself feel a little bit more grounded can make a huge difference. So I try to give myself reminders like this all the time.
And I think that's great. And I worked as an educational assistant for 5 years. So we made lots of things like that for our kiddos in the school system. So I think that's a great idea. We may actually have to do a little group thing like that in our caregiver support community and actually make one. It would be nicer when it's back in person, but virtually I'm sure we could still make that happen too. I want to thank you for spending the time with us today and getting to know a little bit about you. So guys, remember, if you're calling in on the intake line, you never know, one of these times you may actually reach Darren, and feel free to ask him lots of questions. He's there to help support you. The real goal here is to put tools in your toolbox, caregivers, and make sure that we can help reduce your stress levels so that you feel more confident in your caregiving journey and your experience. So again, Darren, I want to thank you. Everybody, I want to know what you're going to be doing in the next 2 weeks for your joy, and I want you to put it into the chat box. If you even have a picture, that's a bonus point for that, because I really want to know. I really do think it's important that we see the positive things that our caregivers are doing, and it can really encourage you as a caregiver maybe to try to do something for yourself too. So again, Darren, thank you so much. Everybody, have a great 2 weeks. We will see you, and we will continue our caregiver connections mid part of July when I'm back off of vacation. So enjoy your 2 weeks holidays as well, and I look forward to chatting with you all again.